From the time we're little, we dream of supercars. We play with the toy models. We hang up pictures of Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and we continue to think about them as we grow old. But with the price of many crossing $500,000, it's just simply unattainable for most of us. So today, we build our own. Welcome to the Kies 992 budget supercar build.
I was 10 years old, dreaming way too big. Poster on the wall, had the engine in my ribs. Late nights seeing blueprints before they existed. One day I'ma build something cold like this. Same idea, different year. What was distant, now is near. Same design, still sincere, built with time.
The 992 Carrera is an incredible timeless car, but with big brothers like the GT3 and the Turbo S, it just comes across as underpowered and a little bit boring. So let's get to work and bring this up to supercar status. Now, whenever you're starting a new build, it's always important to know where you're starting. So today, we have our 992 Carrera on the dyno for some stock baseline runs. Now, to keep things fair, what we like to do is 3 runs back to back to back to eliminate the high runs and the low runs. All right, after our 3 runs, it looks like we're averaging about 445 horsepower to the wheels and 426 foot-pound of torque. So with that, let's bring it back to the shop and get to work. As you can see, we have my 992 pretty well stripped apart, and that's because we have a lot of performance upgrades. But not only that, if you take a look on the floor, we have a lot of everything. In this video series, we're going to be covering aesthetics, performance, of course, it's a Porsche, come on. We have some suspension, wheels and tires, and so much more. In today's video, what I want to do is I want to focus on performance, most of which is going to happen right in this general area here. In this video, we have pure turbos, we have a CSF cooler, we have not only an Akrapovic exhaust, but we also have their link pipes and even their titanium tips, which look absolutely incredible. We have parts from DO88, APR, and so many other really cool things. I can't wait to get started. But before we do all of that and we take this thing to the moon with our goal of around 700 horsepower, one of the most important things you need to do is you need to take into consideration proper maintenance. So before I get started with all the fun stuff, let's knock out some spark plugs. Now, for the 992 Carrera, we do recommend that you stick with the factory Bosch plug, but we do recommend one change, and that is that you gap them down to 0.022 inches, and that is going to ensure that you have no misfires and that your car runs as strong as possible. So with that, let's throw them in. All right, the spark plugs are fully installed, and now that we checked off the maintenance box, it's time to have some fun with our brand new Pure turbos. If you take a look at the table here, you'll notice that the Pures look very similar to the turbos that we took off my car, and that's because what Pure does is they use an OEM core, but they bore it out to have more fun with a larger compressor wheel and turbine wheel. Now, the cool thing about these is that since they're starting with an OEM turbo, everything is going to fit just like factory because it's the same actual turbo with bigger guts. So that way you're going to be able to make more power. Speaking of power, on 93 octane, we're seeing around that 625 horsepower range. And on race gas, out of these turbos, we're seeing closer to 700 horsepower, which is my goal for this. Now, if you've watched our channel for any length of time, you'll know that we've used Pure on the channel for about 8 years or so. And I even have a set on my G80 M3 that runs 1,019 to the tire. So we're very experienced and very happy with the quality of Pure. So with that, let's get these installed. But before we do that, we have one more thing we need to do. Maintenance to me is very, very important. And that's why anytime we install a turbo, we use Liqui-Moly's turbocharger additive. And this is not something I'm just saying. You can go back and watch the videos. Every time we install a turbo, whether it's Pure, OEM, or a giant single. When you install turbos, they have no oil in them and you don't want them to spin up and burn out before you get to have some fun. What you need to do is get Liqui-Moly's turbocharger additive. You throw some in the oil feed, it's going to stick inside and it's going to give the car time to pump the oil through the turbo to ensure everything is properly lubricated so that you get the longest life and the most fun out of your turbo. So let's drop some of this in and throw them on the car. All right, so since the exhaust connects to the turbo, we thought that was an appropriate mod to do next. As you can see here, we have the Akrapovic slip-on center section, plus their high-flow catted link pipes to make sure that we get as much power as possible. It also drastically helps the sound. Now, if you're looking at this and you might think, kind of looks like it's been used. Well, it has, because what we like to do before we bring them to you, when possible, we like to thoroughly test them out. I had the opportunity to test this out for about a year prior to making this video, and I gotta say, hands down, best exhaust on the market. And not only does it sound incredible and keep your factory valve setup, but it also is gonna save you 16 pounds over the stock muffler, which, well, doesn't look anywhere near as nice as this. Now, speaking of the link pipes, I do want to show you OEM versus the Akrapovic. Again, this over here is a 300 cell high flow cap, and this is your factory. So you can see the little honeycombs are significantly bigger in the Akrapovic for way better flow. We also have the titanium tips that match the exhaust. And let's be honest, if you're going to go through all of this and you're going to put the link pipes on in the center section, you want people to know that you have an Akrapovic exhaust. So you have to finish off with the tip. We're gonna wait to install that until we're ready to actually put the bumper on. Speaking of things like putting the bumper on, putting turbos on, and putting this exact exhaust on, we do have step-by-step DIYs for a lot of these projects where you can literally see this exact exhaust, and you can also hear how some of these things sound like this. So now that you got a sneak peek of what it's gonna sound like, let me throw this back on so we can get to our next mod. Since everything with the hot side of the turbo is complete, it's time to work on the cool side. Now, when it comes to forced induction, you want to have as much air flowing into the engine as possible, because when you think about it, turbos are really just air pumps. So you want to make sure that it's as efficient as possible. When you take a look at the OEM plenum, this is basically the piece where it goes through your intercooler, and then this is what actually puts it into the intake manifold. It is literally a T. And as you know, you don't even need to be an engineer to know this. This is not super efficient. So what our friends over at DO88 have done is they have improved the plenum. Not only is it all metal instead of cheap plastic, but if you take a look at it, they maximize the airflow. With a DO88 plenum, you're going to see about a 5% increase in flow, which is going to be incredible, especially when we're trying to throw as much air from those turbos into the engine as possible. Let's throw it in. All right, so now the DO88 plenum and the throttle body are fully installed, and it's time to install the intercooler, but we're not going to just install a stock one. We have something significantly better. CSF has collaborated with PWR to make this incredible cooler. You may know PWR's name because those are the guys that make all of the coolers for the F1 racing, which is nuts to think that we're gonna have some F1 technology on the 992. If you take a look at it on the table, the first thing you're going to notice once I remove all of these plastics is that this has double the tubes and fins for enhanced cooling. In addition to that, it also replaces these cheap plastic end tanks with full billet aluminum that's all TIG welded to perfection. So let me transfer over some of these plastics and then we can get this car nice and cool. All right, our CSF cooler is fully mounted and ready to go. So now it's time to connect the intercooler to the turbo, which is down here. And while we're there, we have an upgraded one from DO88, which is significantly larger to allow for more airflow. Now, while we're there, you can see over here, we've already installed it on both sides. We have the APR carbon fiber intakes, but we're not stopping there because we have the APR carbon inlets as well to make sure that we maximize our airflow. So with that, let's throw all these in, and then once they're on the car, I'm going to upgrade the filters to these BMCs. All right, filters are in, and take a look at this. This just looks so good. I wish I could leave the bumper off, but we do have things like these Akrapovic titanium tips to install on the bumper, but we're gonna have to wait until next time because while the bumper's off and while this is apart, we might as well change it all up. So be sure to come back and join us for part 2 of our budget Supercar 992 build. And once again, if you're interested in any of the parts we installed today or the DIY videos, we have everything conveniently listed for you down in the description below, where you'll even find links to things like the tools we use in our videos. My name is Brian, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.